Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for taking some time out and coming on here a little bit about our journey that we've been on at the Mayborn Group for the last 4 years. Just to go over a little bit of what we're going to cover. We took through a little bit of who Mayborn is. Take you through a little bit of the history around our journey, where we've been to get to where we are today. A little bit around our strategy, and then we get into a little bit of the detail of where we've taken our data from an EPOS, an electronic point of sale data, to drive a platform that we can use to bring value to the business, and then where we are now in respect of taking that data and taking that journey to provide an analytical platform and an analytical process to support our supply and demand. So just a little bit about who Mayborn Group is. The Mayborn Group's probably a little bit more well known for the brand that we support, and that's the Tommy Tippy brand. Tommy Tippy has been around since about 1965. We are in the baby category. We are a global brand. We've got manufacturing in China, in Morocco, sales offices across the globe in the US, in Australia, Paris. We're based up in the northeast of England as our global headquarters. We're #1 baby brand in the UK and in Australia, and a challenging brand out in the US and in the Asia market. We produce somewhere in the region of about 137 million products every year, and we have around sort of 1,200 staff across the globe. So our journey so far, we started off on an analytical and a data journey back in 2018, when we were a very small group. We had 2 people in the business supporting any centralised analytics. It was all very much Excel based. Most of the action was done in the regions, very isolated from the central picture. In 2019, we looked at where we were going to take our analytic platforms, and that's when Alteryx came into the picture. Alongside ClickSense as our visualization tool, Alteryx was positioned as being our core analytics platform for data prep, data wrangling. The team started to grow as we started to provide some value back to the business. In 2020, we became a larger group. In 2021, we were honoured with the Alteryx Excellence Award for the work that we did around our EPOS data, which I'll get into and show you in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. Now we're on that next leg of the journey. So we're moving towards a centralised data warehouse automation platform, and Alteryx is providing an inroad to support that. So a little bit about our architecture. Alteryx is very much at the forefront of everything that we do. So we use Alteryx to provide a data pipeline mechanism for all of our electronic point of sale data. Now we get EPOS data from retailers across the globe. We've got somewhere in the region of about 70 at the moment. Now they come in various forms. We get them in Excel files, we get them emailed in, we have portals that we have to go and log into and download all of that data. And as you can imagine, 70 different retailers, that's 70 different formats of Excel or CSVs that we have to use. We place all of that into a staging area, into a SQL database, and we use the Click Data Warehouse Automation Platform, QDI, to actually automate that using change data capture into a data warehouse. And then from a visualization perspective, we surface that through ClickSense, and we use Alteryx from the gallery perspective to provide some access to our end users, so they can actually go and run some of those workflows that we've developed, so they can sign in, they can provide information into the pipeline, go off into the gallery, run that, and see that come straight back through into the analytics platform. So key things we've got there is we wanted a centralised approach. We wanted to bring everything in from the regions so we could provide a single version of the truth. As a business, we've never had that. So if you looked at retailers like Amazon, for instance, we've never had that ability to be able to bring all of our regional view of Amazon together. Alteryx has provided us the opportunity to do that. So you can see there just a few sort of points around where we've been, the ideas and the platforms and the goals of the business. So, excuse me. Just bringing that up. Global single version of the truth. A governed process for the extraction of our data. So bringing that all together and combining it to provide democratization of the data across the business, but enhancing the processes along the way. So we managed to reduce the time analysis, the time to analyze that data per analyst by over 500% per month. We've automated 50% of the retailer data collection, but we've automated the processing of 100% of all of that data that we get through. So here's just an example of one of the workflows that we've got that is doing all of that work in the background. So say multiple files coming through from various sources. We combine that with historical data, so we're constantly building up a picture of where we've been with everything from all of our retailers. We manipulate, we merge, we aggregate the data, we cleanse the data. So again, as you can imagine, 70 different sources of data, 70 different variations. We've actually built some custom macros to help support this. So biggest challenge that we had was tying our SKU codes back to Amazon's ASINs. Because when Amazon send us the data, they send their SKU codes, as do most of the retailers. So we built custom macros in there to help support that and help actually map that back to our internal SKU codes, so the business can report against the internal hierarchies. We add supplementary data to that, so we want to look at our structure from a product perspective, from a product hierarchy perspective. So we bring internal data from our product information management system into that to support the EPOS data. So when the business is looking at that data, they can analyze it in the way they need to. And then we output ready to pull into our visualization tool, so click sense. Again, there key benefits, and this is one of the things that we work with the business all the time. So whenever we do anything, whether it be for, a new retailer on board or a new dashboard that the business asks for, we work with the business to identify what the benefits are. So focused on efficiencies in this case, with the ability to provide that globalized view of the data, giving people the ability to make decisions based on the holistic picture. So global single version of the truth. We've got a governed process, so we know that when that data comes back through from the retailers, it's governed, it's checked against our internal data, so we can make sure that SKU codes match, invoices match, pull it all back together, and then give the global view of the picture. Again, the efficiencies was a huge thing. In this instance, 500% per analyst per month. That's about 30 analysts across the business. So we gave them the ability to actually go and analyze the data rather than spend all the time wrangling the data. It used to take them days just to produce one report, and they could only get to do it once a month. So the timely factor of the data that we had available was always out of date before we even started anything. So where do we go now? So the next step was to take that electronic point of sale data and start to actually use that to support our supply and demand side of the business to look at what's our forecast, what is it that do we need to manufacture to meet the demands. So based on the consolidated EPOS data that we've got, bringing in a little bit of internal sales data, a bit of MI, a bit of forecast data, we've used that to build on the last 13 weeks of retailer data. We smooth that out, so we pull out any anomalies or any outliers within the data. So Black Friday, for instance, we always get a huge massive spike in around Black Friday, around sale times. So we flatten that out to give our account managers and our demand planners a base forecast to build off. We use automated templates, so this is all in the hands of the user. We use gallery, so users can go in, they use the gallery within server, and they can select and drive what forecasts they want to produce. They add some market intelligence over the top of that, feed that back in, put that into a location. We feed that all back through the process and then put it into analytics through ClickSense. So what does that look like? So this is bringing it all together. So we have a gallery interface. We use cascading selections within there. So the user's account manager can come in, they will select what region that they want. When they select the region, it will tell them what forecast channels that are available to them. They can then select one or more forecast channels that they want to run a forecast against. Using an Excel template, when that workflow runs, we pick up that template and we will generate a Excel spreadsheet for each of those retailers, each of the forecast channels that they've selected. We, as I said, we smooth that out, remove any of the outliers, so we get a nice consistent picture of what the forecast should look like. We do that and we give them that for 24 months forward. Once they've put their intelligence over the top, so they'll look at what promotions they've got going on, maybe what sales that they know, anything that the retailers might be doing. They put their own MI over the top of that, drop that back into a location on the server. Alteryx goes and picks that up, processes that, and then feeds that into our front-end analytics. So that gives them the ability to be able to get a base, add the intelligence over the top, and then analyze that all within space of an hour. Whereas previously, it would take them weeks to be able to do that. So it's just a brief visualization of how we then surface that up into the analytics at the front end. The key benefits, and this is where the business is really getting excited about what we've been able to do. For the first time, they can actually do this, and they can do this on a regular basis. Previously, it would take 4 days to produce one demand forecast for one forecast channel. Now, they can do that in 5 minutes. So we've got much more scope to then be able to take this further. We've reduced reliance on our centralised team. So previously, my team would get lots of requests. Can I see this data? Can I get this report? We were running lots of ad hoc data requests to support the business. Now that's in the hands of the users. They can go and get that data. They can self-serve and then feed that back in. So it gives them the ability to be able to actually spend more time analysing the data. So the next steps, where do we go from here? And again, this is where Alteryx is going to be able to help support us massively. We're working with the business to look at what does the demand forecast process look like what should it be? So we started from a very base perspective of looking at some historical data, averaging it out over 13 weeks, and giving them a starting point, giving them the ability to then put their intelligence over the top. What we want to do next is actually look at that from a predictive perspective. So rather than looking at what has happened and just giving people the ability to put a bit of a lens over the top of that, we want to actually look at that EPOS data. We want to use that to drive some predictions, to actually tell the business what it's going to be, not just giving them a baseline. So we're working with the business to understand what that logic should be, rather than us coming to the business and telling them. We want the business to define what that is. So we're working with demand planners to understand what that should be. Take their previous models that they've done in Excel and with a lot of wrangling, and look at what that looks like from a predictive model perspective with Alteryx. So we're constantly evolving the process. We launched this about 4 weeks ago, and we're now in the next stage of looking at what that may look like going forward. So it's like I say, starting to understand the processes, starting to understand the logic that we can apply. So we're constantly looking at how do we enhance things. I think we've got plenty of time for any Q&As if anybody has any questions.
So you mentioned that users can apply their own intelligence on top of the forecast that you're kind of producing, but how do you keep that consistent? So if one user runs it and they think it's going to go down in their area, and then another user runs it and they think it's going to go up in that area, they're going to get like different forecasts. How do you maintain like trust in the system when people can apply their own kind of stuff on top?
So the way they do that at the minute is we provide them with the Excel template that they can then sort of apply over the top. It's individual account managers that do that, so they know their retailer. So there will always be that variance of how they apply that because it's individual to each retailer. We are working with the account managers and the demand planners going forward because we want to reduce the amount of MI that they put over the top of it, and we want to get our forecast more accurate and actually move towards that prediction. So we're working with them to sort of standardize the approach and look at how do they look at things like promotions that are coming up. How do they manage from a retailer perspective what that uplift is? Now, when they plan the promotions, then they should be doing that anyway. So we've got a standard approach to that. So we're looking at how do we then apply that through the automations going forward.
Hello. I was just wondering why you give them the data back in Excel so that they put their inputs into Excel, and it goes against what everyone outside is probably advertising to us.
It's a journey, and part of the transformation journey that we're on is moving a business who's been steeped in Excel for the last, since Excel came out. So it's very difficult to then sort of get them to look at a new tool. We're changing the process, so we're giving them that familiarity of, right, round one, we'll do it through Excel, get the trust come back through them into the process, into the platforms, and then look at how do we systemize that more, so to the point of kind of how do we standardize it. And it's a bit of a heart and minds thing, to be honest, to bring them on that journey with us and have the solution owned by them, not be an IT driven thing. So yeah, very much a heart and minds thing.
Hi. I was just wondering why you went down the Alteryx route instead of a specialised demand forecasting software.
I think from a business perspective, the business didn't have an appetite for going all in big bang forecasting platform, spending a lot of money with not really a huge amount of understanding of what the ROI was going to be out of that. What we can do with Alteryx is develop these solutions very quickly. So the initial sort of EPOS side of things, we've done that over a few years because of the pure volume of the retailers that we had to support. But the forecasting side of things, the next step, that was spun up in a week. And immediately the business starts to see that benefit. And we know that we've got control over that, so we can tweak that as however we want. We can tweak the models, we can tweak the workflows, we can expand on it. And that ROI keeps coming through from the business's perspective. So Alteryx, the reason we went with Alteryx for most of what we do with it is because of that agility that we've got to be able to spin up something when the business comes to us and says, right, we've got a problem. Through COVID, we launched our own e-com site, so we went direct to consumer. Traditionally, the business has always been straight into retail. With Alteryx, we were able to then spin up analytics apps, get the data from our Magento e-commerce site very, very quickly to service a need for the business. So Alteryx gives us that. Yeah.
Hi, thanks, Sis. It's hello, hi.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Sis. I love it. It's really interesting. I think a lot of what you're saying we see in our business, and it's quite exciting to see the journey you've been on. So thank you. The question I have is, how long have you found it's taken for the analysts that you have in your team who use Alteryx to pick it up and go from 0 to running?
We were quite fortunate. When I joined Mayborn, my previous role was a BI consultant, and I'd worked for an Alteryx partner at the time, so I knew Alteryx really well. When I started to look at building my team, I brought in a couple of people who knew Alteryx, who'd worked with me previously. Now, as part of that journey, as the teams expanded, we brought in graduates, and we sat them down with Alteryx. We've got them online, got them having a look at the academy, and delivering models within 2-3 weeks. It is a very, very intuitive platform to pick up. The online support and that through the community and through the academy is fantastic, but hands-on. We just give them some small data sets and challenges to look at from a business perspective. As I say, very, very quickly they were up and running, delivering workflows and delivering value into the business.
Thank you for the presentation, really enjoyed it. I would like to understand why you chose ClickSense for the visualization. Like I have seen on your CV that you are also very familiar with Power BI, for instance.
Yes, the reason that we went with ClickSense was the associative engine and the power that provides from a drill-through perspective, and also the intuitiveness of the platform itself from building the apps. It's very much a self-serve tool rather than other tools that might just be kind of more of a service to the users. We've got business users who will create their own dashboards through the governed data sets that we provide them, and it's intuitive to pick up. Yeah. Any more questions? No. Cool. Well, thank you all very much. If you do have any more any questions or anything, I'll be around the Alteryx stand after this, so please feel free to come along and have a chat. Cool. Thank you very much.